Yeah.
Yeah, like
When you saw Van Halen sound checking like that in front of 20 people, did you get a sense of who was leading the sound check on the stage?
oh Eddie.
Oh, Eddie was leading the sound check.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was
He was
he calling the tunes and stuff like that? Or
no. They had already had the tune, if I remember correctly. And I mean, we're going back a way, so bear with me here. But if I remember correctly, the songs were already picked out in advance, and there was
okay.
just some tweaks that they were doing, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, from what I remember, it was Eddie that was kind of took the lead on things. He didn't call the songs, but he took the lead on the stage for the sound checks,
Yeah.
and he put on an amazing show. And of course, the VIPs were all happy because he comes right to the edge of the stage, and these people are now 4 feet away,
Yeah.
and he sits down on the edge of the stage, and he plays directly to some of these VIPs,
Yeah.
and they're all like,
Yeah.
so yeah, experiences like that you can never prepare for. You can never plan that out in advance. Like,
Yeah. And that's the new normal of concerts today. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and because there's no record sales, because there's really the only way to make money is live these days. And now with these VIP experiences, if you got the cake, I mean, dude, there's even George Lynch, from Dokken.
okay, yep,
He does these shows where you could join the Tiger Club, and you
okay,
basically get one of his Tiger Stripe guitars, and he'll sign it and like jam on it a little bit or whatever. And that's
yep,
like, and Ed was doing a similar thing for a while there too, where he would play one of his striped guitars each show. He would write his name on it, and they were auctioning them off, I think, on eBay, dude. They were going for like 20 grand and stuff like that. It's a different world than when we were kids. When I was a little kid, you could go see David Lee Roth and Van Halen for $12. Literally $12.
so one of the bands I just recently shot, they're called Abysmal Horror, and they're a death metal band. But I'm a friend of the singer, and they just played Montreal, and I got some photos up on Instagram. But anyway, um, we were talking about tickets, and then Lady Gaga is making her rounds right now, and even for the worst tickets, like nosebleed, way back of the arena, up at the very top, starting at $400.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like how many, average high school kids that are going to want to go see Lady Gaga
Yeah.
even has $400 for that? Like
Yeah.
it. I mean, I get the times are changing, and artists need to try and recoup money somehow, like make money other ways. I mean, like I'll go back, and I remember my father I used to go with me, buying 8 tracks,
Yeah.
right? And I remember, him buying this big, 8 track cartridge of the Beach Boys, and popping it in the car, and it was the greatest thing, right?
Yeah.
And how many people aren't even gonna know what 8 tracks are anymore?
Well, the people that watch my channel will know because they're all old dudes, mostly like me.
And then of course, yeah, we go 8 tracks, and then records obviously, but then it goes cassettes,
Yeah.
and then your CDs, and now everything's streaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I suspect that, the artists are losing a lot of money because you don't have album sales anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no sale. Now, here's the thing. In 2013, when you took that shot, the one thing that was still going on with country music, at least in the United States,
Okay.
they were still able to sell physical CDs. We were still physically selling CDs. Maybe it's because the country audience wasn't as sophisticated as some of the maybe younger audiences or more urban audiences or whatever it was. We could pontificate on that for a while, but we were still selling product. We were still selling CDs. They would sell them out of the merch booth. They, all of that stuff. And we would get physical copies of the record, because we were unlike a lot of those bands that you would take photos of. We actually played on the records. So most of the bands that you take, if you go to these country concerts, these American country artists and stuff like that, most of their backing bands aren't the people that played on the records. And that's,
Yeah, I heard that. I was kind of surprised because I mean, I for years I just assumed that whoever's on stage was the one doing the studio work.
yeah,
But then I found out later, no, some people would hire studio session players
yeah,
and then have floor players.
yeah.
And
Nashville makes records very quickly. And the old school way of a band being holed up in a studio for a month with a producer who's
yeah,
packing
yeah,
himself
yeah,
and boozing up and staying up all night to try to get the perfect guitar solo and all that. They don't do any of that in Nashville. It's like, we've got 4 songs and 3 hours, and we want to get all 4 songs in 3 hours. Now, not the vocal. They'll take time on the vocal, but everybody tracking on the floor live. That means you try not to make any mistakes as it plays down. And that's the way they did it in the 50s. If you listen to all the old Elvis records, he even sang his vocal live largely with the band. So what you're hearing is not the band and then Elvis doing 100 takes. It's Elvis might have did 20 takes, but that take that they used, it's him singing it all the way down with the band. That's mind-blowing for people to think about now.
yeah. When I first, I don't even know if I can name the name, but the first time I was in a studio with a band, like a professional arena, studio level band, and they were recording, there was one line they redid 12 times. And I didn't realize that, they would just stop even for one
Yeah,
line and just run it and run it and run it and run it.
yeah,
Nope, this was a little pitchy. Nope, that was a little too low. Nope, that was a little too high.
yeah,
No, you stretch that note out a bit longer. Like, I didn't really fully understand all the stuff that went into some of this. Like,
yeah. Then think about the old school guys who would just nail it in one pass. And now, it went through different eras. Once they started getting all these tracks, a lot of Elvis stuff would be on 2 tracks or 4 tracks. The Beatles' Sergeant Pepper was 4 tracks. So all that instrumentation on Sergeant Pepper's, a lot of it's bounced down to 1 track. So they might have, let's say, 3 tracks, guitar, bass, and drums. Then they'll
right,
bounce
yep,
all that down to 1 track. Then they've got 3 more tracks to put keyboards and additional vocals and percussion or orchestra or whatever it was. But once they started getting all those tracks, they started having all this extra room, and they could start going, okay, now we can isolate everything and start pouring over the results. Then they started going, okay, now we'll have the singer sing over and over and over again, because a lot of these guys didn't have the talent of an Elvis or somebody that could just sing off the floor and sing in key. So the thing that happened now, the only trick to that is, if they can't get it, I mean, they keep erasing over that tape, because back then it was tape.
yeah, I was
You
good.
start to wear a hole in the
Wear that
friggin'
tape.
tape.
Yeah,
And then there's all this degradation of the tone, because the tape is just one big eraser swipe. But now, and here's the thing, the difference is, back then they would make you work for it. Okay, you're not a great singer, but we're going to make sure we get a good pass at it. I mean, I heard on the first Van Halen record that Ted Templeman worked with Dave, and they kept working and getting it right, because he was a little fluctuating, in a few spots and whatnot. But now that you can just fix it, as long as you get the attitude or the vibe on tape, the pitch, they just sit there with their little cursor or their mouse,
Yeah, and
and
just
they
adjust
and
it.
they
Yeah,
can and they adjust it.
yeah.
So and now you don't, nobody has to do anything because you could just AI the whole thing.
Yeah, you can just computerize the voice and recreate it. Yeah,
I mean, so it's changing. We're talking about an industry that's really in upheaval. And like you said about the concert tickets being $400, dude, all the time I'll think of, I'd like to take my daughter to a concert, and I'll look up the prices and just go, I'm not paying that. Dude, when I was a little kid, we paid $8 to see friggin' Elvis.
right.
I saw the Stones for $12 when they were still drinking Jack Daniels off the amp, and a pile of things on top of the rigs back there, and all this. And to me, to go pay 1,000 now to see them at 80 years old, it just doesn't make economic sense to me.
Yeah, I feel bad like because I did the line of work that I did for so long. I got spoiled because I was working shows, and in a lot of cases I was on the stage, just stage left or stage right. So if anyone got on the stage, I'm there before they get to the artist, right? Or I'm right in front of the stage, front and center in that pit. Same thing. Anyone's going for that artist. But I had the best views in the house
Yeah.
for so many years that even the thought, even if I'm paying $20 just to sit in the very back row of an arena,
Yeah.
and I won't even, they're a little dot, and then I have to look on a screen if I want to actually see them. Well, if I want to see an artist on a screen, I can do that at home. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Once you've experienced it, and I tell my wife that, I go, once I've experienced either doing it or being backstage and having full access, the thought of
yes,
going and being in the cheap seats,
restricted.
uncomfortable with some guy getting up to piss every 5 minutes, it,
Ah.
it just doesn't it just doesn't feel like an enjoyable situation. But it is what it is.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, even at Boots and Hearts, like when you were backstage, you must have come across a ton of different artists.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Because I
were
saw
all.
everyone that was a lot of people were just walking through the crowd. It was the funniest thing. There was a lot of times that artists were walking through the crowd, and the crowd didn't even recognize them.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Hey, man, good set. You know who I am? Yeah, I'm a photographer. Don't worry, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
Because they're just trying to get through a crowd and get to wherever it is,
Yeah.
wherever they're going." But I just noticed for Boots and Hearts in particular that the artists were very casual about interacting with people. So
Yeah.
I just figured you must have seen a bunch of people walking around back there, and
Yeah.
must have been nice to have that access. Yeah.
Yeah, you always see, if I remember correctly, at that particular show. Now maybe you could tell me who played before us and who played after us.
Oh
I
my
don't
goodness.
know.
Off the top of my head, I don't. I would have somewhere. I still have the schedule because as an like I shoot photography. I shoot shows, but I'm still at the core. I'm still a music fan, so I want to have these
Yeah.
memories and be able to look back and go, oh yeah, I remember that day. Colt Ford's on stage. It had just rained, and a lot of the people in the country shows had the cowboy boots with the smooth bottoms.
Yeah.
So there were some people that had to move carefully so they
Yeah.
didn't end up, you know,
Yeah.
going off the stage into the pit or
Yeah.
even just fall on stage during the performance. But I just love those memories and I miss those times because just having that access,
Yeah.
you get spoiled and you kind of take it for granted. Like now I don't know who would be doing security for the Stones, and but there was that time where I was backstage and I walked right by the Stones. Hey man, how you doing? There was no issue about being anywhere near them.
Yeah.
Like it just wasn't a thing. But
Yeah.
now, if I wanted to see them as a customer, yeah, I'm gonna pay $600 instead of the
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And
It just it and I try to explain that to my wife. I actually met her on the road around
oh, right on. Okay.
2014, about 2014.
Okay.
But and we would play everything from big festivals like that, arena shows opening for big names, and then we'd play some redneck country bar down in Florida for about 300 drunk rednecks. And that's where I met my wife, in one of those little redneck bars in Florida. But I would, man, all the time I would go out, whether it was an arena or or a big festival or whatever. If I was bored and I'd had a couple beers, I would all the time go out in the crowd and watch. I'd watch the other acts, sometimes meet people, sometimes make friends, or whatever. And it gave you a break from being on a tour bus with 13. We traveled with 13 people on one bus.
Oh man, I can't even
13 dude,
imagine.
13 dudes. And I'm a guy that grew up around largely women. So
Yep.
I much preferred to just go out there and talk to somebody besides the 13 dudes that I was on the bus with. And
Gets a little crowded, eh?
it's crowded, and you got to imagine 13 egos.
Yeah.
And one guy might have had a horrific show, and he's cursing up a storm, and you might have felt like you had an amazing show. And then some other drum, we got the helicopter coming in, and dude, and I remember seeing a there's a video, a compilation of the end of the year 2013 Colt Ford tour, and seeing like kind of all the highlights. And just I remember the last show we played a place in Denver. I can't. That's the. I want to say it's like, I don't know. It's some rose or something like that. The yellow rose or the blue rose or something weird like that. But it was the last show of the year. It was December like 13th. It was freezing because it's Denver, and everyone was just exhausted, and ready to go home. And it was like it was just a whirlwind that you little things. I remember the last show because every time we played this place, you always got a giant shrimp cocktail like about this big backstage. Like they would have all this shrimp and cocktail sauce that was like end of the year feast, after the show, and beers and all that. And just to have these memories brought back because you sent me that photo. A lot of it I've just kind of buried because it ended for me around July of 2024.
Okay.
We had band members coming and going, and there's people want to go in this direction, and I obviously wanted to keep rocking, and I think they felt like they wanted to be that top country act, and I knew that was not the thing that it needed to do. It needed to be edgy, it needed to be outlaw, it needed to be rock and roll. And so there was that separation there. And so a lot of that got kind of pushed to the back of the memory. I went on to play other gigs and do other things, and then to see that picture, and then remember that helicopter ride and that sort of moment of glory. Everything was kind of clicking and all that, and remembering that time. First of all, I want to thank you for sending that and finding me. Now the other guys haven't reached out, and they might not, because it's even now with me doing this YouTube thing, I get all these messages, and I'll try to like go through them and kind of every now and then reply to something or whatever. Yours was intriguing because I'm like, I wasn't even sure. Did I play that show? Was I even there? Did it even happen? Did I even go on the road? I
Yeah,
don't.
like I said, I wanted to say, hey man, I have some photos of you. I just thought you might like to have them for keepsake. Like I still have a whole bunch of these memory sticks to go through with pictures, and I'm not looking to sell them. I'm not looking to watermark any of them. I just think, as a music lover myself, if I was a musician and I was on stage and I had some photos that captured some cool moments that would help me, remember it and relive that, then I'm happy to do that as a music fan. Say,
Yeah,
hey, like, I got the guy that played guitar and violin on that show with Colt.
yeah,
I got some cool pics of him playing violin and guitar. And again, I just want to reach out and say, hey, if you want, here you go. I hope you
yeah,
enjoy them. I hope they bring back some good memories. And if not, okay, cool. But I just want to put the offer out there.
yeah, yeah,
So I got a whole bunch of artists now. I'm gonna, go back through, pick out the best, edit them, say, "Hey, here you go. If you want them, you know,
yeah. And maybe one day it'd be a photo book for you. Think about that. I know my buddy Jeff Mintline, he did a whole book. He did two books about his photos that he took at the machine shop in Flint, Michigan. And they sell them out of that club. It's a big, hard rock club there. And to see all these images and, you never know. This could be the start of something, this conversation. I think it's a great thing that you're doing, that you're reaching out to people. And because here's the thing, man. There'll be people, the business comes and goes, headliners go up and down. A lot of that, there's only one guy from that band that you photoed that day that's still out there doing that gig. Everybody else went, their different ways or whatever, but there will always be that moment in time. And when you see these photos, you see, it brings you back to that place. I think I remember the guys from Parmalee were in the wings that day, and I was messing with them while we were playing, or so, if I remember correctly. But
they might have been, because you have the I don't know what his name was. He was one of the guitar players on the off. He was on post right, stage left, and someone was yelling at him from up in the sides, because they had those raised sides where everyone was at,
yes,
and he stops playing, and he's like, you know,
yeah, yeah. I
and I got
think
and
that
I,
I
and I,
think
and
the
I got that
par
shot. He had the blonde spiky hair.
Yeah, I think Parmalee was stage right up in those wings, like you said, the upper deck. Because I
Yeah, that could
remember,
have
and
been.
I used to mess with those guys. I always called them Parmesan. I
I
would
guess I'm.
always come up with these names for whoever we were playing with, and just for me, it was like, I know we're just out there to go play our songs, but my goal was always, whoever we play before, let's make their job tough. Let's go out there and give every ounce of what you have, at whatever you have in the tank at the moment. And
Yeah,
so,
they were a good bunch.
and so, having those moments and giving it your all and experiencing all of that when you're there, because it's gone in a flash.
Well, no, let me ask you a couple of questions, if I may here.
Yeah.
Now, when you saw that photo, right, like the one particular photo, and I sent it to you, you knew it was from 2013, Boots and Hearts. Did that put a smile on your face?
Yeah, it did, but it also, it's bittersweet in a
Of
while,
course. Yeah.
because I'm seeing my friends, I'm seeing the stage, I'm seeing that moment in time, and it's something, with this channel that's I talk about, is, people see these guys up on these big stages and they think we're driving Lamborghinis, and all this stuff. And that's not the reality of, essentially, we were sidemen. We were not, we were not a band that everybody got like equal, thing. We were backing an artist, so, a sideman makes sideman money, and that's a per show kind of thing. And it doesn't matter that we played for that day. I'm guessing how many people were there that day?
I was going to ask you about that. I'm guessing because Boots and Hearts, even back, so I don't know if you ever thought twice about Boots and Hearts or not, but Boots and Hearts, it did 3 years, I think, at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and then it went to where it is now, a place called Burroughs Creek, because it just grew so big. But even then, 2013, I want to say there was probably 35,000.
Wow. 35,000. I
I
knew
want,
I knew it was, dude, that stage is insanely,
oh
uh
yeah, it was massive.
it
It
was
had to be.
massive, dude. It was massive. And you're out there on this giant stage, and you look, and there's a sea of people. And for me, getting to play outside the US for 30,000 or 35,000 people, that's something that I've been trying to do for 30 plus years at that point in time. And I'm not going to let that moment, I'm going to go out there and do everything I'm can in that moment. And seeing that took me back. Now I'm a completely different person than I was then. I was a absolute lunatic. I mean, dude, I don't think we drank much for that show, or during that show, because it was a daytime show.
Yeah.
But dude, if we were playing, for me, if we were playing at night, I would have had a glass of whiskey about that tall on top of my amp. I would have
Yeah.
been getting on the talk back and asking my guitar tech to bring me about 3 or 4 beers during the show, and then after the show, the party would have continued. Those those
Right.
those daytime shows, you largely had lunch, and you went up there, and you had, a sip of water or whatever, because you knew, hey, this is daytime, and I don't want to spin my wheels, because we stayed there all day. We were there all after we played. We stayed on the bus. The bus driver is, in a hotel getting sleep so that he can drive to wherever
Yeah.
we were playing the next day. And we stayed, and then after, partied later that evening, 5 or 6 o'clock, crack open a beer and start watching the bands. And then Colt, I think, jumped up on stage with Jason Aldean probably that night.
Is that I see? I didn't even remember who the headliner was that night.
I
But
think it
yeah,
was
Jason
Jason
Aldean. That makes
Aldean.
sense. Yep. Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very well
And
could
I
be.
think the band Perry might have played that day as well. Remember them?
Yes. I got
They
some.
always
Oh, I
creep
know.
they always
If
creeped
I
me
can, if
out.
I can find, if I can find them, I know I have good pics of the band Perry.
I think they
Um,
played after us or something.
that could be. Um, man, there were so many good acts. Like I wasn't like I said, I'm a rock guy. I'll be completely honest. I'm a rock
Yeah.
guy. The country guys that I knew before the security business was because I had a couple of friends that would listen to country off and
Yeah.
on. So I knew, like, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Hank
Yeah.
Williams and Hank
Yeah.
Williams
The
Jr.
old stuff.
Right? Right. Yeah, old country.
Yeah.
And then I got to work with a bunch of country artists and work a bunch of country shows. So, I got to actually meet Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers. Got to do shows for Montgomery Gents, for Alan Jackson, Brad Paisley, and so my country base expanded, and then of course then you do photography, you shoot a country show, it grows even more. And the band Perry, they did a good live show. They were pretty high energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were
Like even
definitely a rock thing and a rock image. but it was something about that they were all brother and sister or something, which it kind of freaked me out. I was weird back then,
Was
dude. It
I
was
didn't I
just
didn't
their
know that. Okay.
songs were kind of, I don't know. It was some, there was something that kind of threw me off about them, but they were very successful group at that time, and riding the charts. I mean, they had a pretty good run. They're, I don't know what they're doing nowadays, but that's the thing, man. You capture these moments in time, and out of all of those bands that day, probably the one that's still at a very high level is Jason Aldean. You know,
Yeah.
that's the one that's still able to go play essentially stadiums, you know. And I don't remember who the other headliners were that week, but
I think Blake Shelton was one of them.
Blake Shelton, yeah. And I'm not even sure if he's really even touring much these days.
No,
I don't know.
I think he's just doing a lot of TV stuff,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, or small or special occasion
yeah,
shows. Like I
yeah,
don't recall seeing a tour advertisement for him in a long
yeah.
time.
Even if you're at the top level, like a Jason Aldean or whatever, or you're one of those musicians, with an artist like that, it's still a very, very tough way to live. And for us, we didn't really have roadies. Essentially,
You were the roadie.
once we finished playing, I had to quickly throw my pedal board on top of my rack,
Hmm.
and we there would be loaders and stuff that would roll the stuff off.
Yeah.
But then once it was off stage, then we would cap our own gear. We would put the lids on everything. I would put my guitars in the road cases, all that stuff. So and the guys that are the top headliner guys, I call those white glove gigs, because you could walk out there and a guy with white gloves hands you your guitar, and it's perfectly tuned and it's got new strings on it, and he's got your amp set, set the way you like it, and all that. I tell people now that's the only way I would do any road work, is if it was white glove. Oh, here you are, sir. Here's your lovely instrument. Would you like a little tea on your amplifier? Yes, I'll have. Please, yeah, put some tea on the amp. Anything else? Yeah, can you arrange a massage for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.? That would be the only way I did it, because I've did it for years. Slugging it out and all that, and it's a tough way to make a living.
Oh, I felt. I mean, I worked shows for every level of artist. I mean, I even remember the first show Green Day did in Ontario. They just sold enough tickets for a venue that held, I think it was like 1,200 people in downtown Toronto, Ontario,
Wow.
Canada. And and I was just like, these guys are really good, and the performance even then really stood out. And then, of course, I mean, look what happened. Look what happened to them.
Yeah. Yeah. They blew up.
And I wanted it was because it was what you were saying that made me think of it. And I believe it was Green Day, but I remember, yeah, I want to say it was Green Day. Saying, oh, well, how much money do you want to make? How famous do you want to get? And the one guy said, I think it was the drummer, and the reply was basically, I want to be famous enough so someone else is carrying and packing all my gear. All I have to do is just sit down and play, right? Like,
Yeah. That's the dream. That's the goal. But then the other thing you got to realize, and I just the other day, man, I've been doing a lot of work on this channel and stuff, and demoing a lot of products and stuff like that. And I tweaked my shoulder
oh
trying to
no,
trying to shred.
oh
And
no,
yeah, and so for about 3 days, dude, it was touch and go. Imagine if you're out on the road, and when you would get those aches and pains or injuries, or you're sick, doesn't matter.
You got to
they
go.
throw you out there. They'll put a bucket behind your amp. You can lean over there and you know
I've seen that. I've literally seen that.
who can you
It's
name any names on that?
I can't. I really can't. I mean that was part of the privilege of being where I was. I got to see things no one's ever going to see. I got to hear things no one's ever going to hear,
Yeah.
and part of that was I can tell some stories. I just can't name names.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So don't name a name, but you saw people yakking behind the stage or on stage, right?
Behind amps off one. What was it? What was the festival? It was a large outdoor festival. It might have been Vans Warped Tour. I don't know if you remember Vans
Yeah,
Warped Tour. Um, one of the artists. It was a hot summer. They used to do Warped Tour in the summer, and it was a hot summer day, and the guy's playing. Also, he just runs the edge of the stage, and then goes running back and just keeps.
that's that's how it is, man. I was like when those here's what would happen. You would play a show the night before, and it might be inside some bar, and you're up late, and then you get on the bus and you woohoo, and you're knocking them back to try to come down from the show. And then you don't realize that your show the next day is at noon and it's in Arizona in 110-degree heat. And you get on stage and the stage lights are on, even though it's daytime. And
Oh,
you're,
that's right. Because I mean, now everything's LED. But anyone
yeah,
that doesn't know, I mean, back then those stage lights
we're hot.
would get really hot.
Yeah. And you're
You
up
know, it
there
was
and you're hungover and you're like, just please don't let me pass out and don't let me puke. And so those shows where I would be in that state, it would be kind of like holding on to the rails of the wall, is side of the wall, and you can't skate. You're kind of holding on, like, please don't let me fall. Those are the moments where you're like, oh shit, I should have taken it easy last night.
like I guess you don't always pay attention, or at least like you say, you don't because even on my end, guys that I used to do the security with, we would do a show like it was AC/DC, Metallica, Iron Maiden, whatever, and you're there and you have the music blast and the energy of the crowd, and you just get this natural high, and then all of a sudden, you get the band into the limousine, you get the band on the bus, you get them gone, you get them back to the hotel, whatever, get them to the airport, whatever the case is. But then you're still pumped, and then you're like, well, what are we gonna do? Okay, well, let's go for drinks. Let's go.
Yeah,
Obviously not the same as being a performer,
but
but
it's there. Yeah,
I get the principle. And then
yeah.
next day you're like, oh man,
Yeah, you're so fired up from that stage of playing for 35,000 people that your adrenaline level is just cranked through the roof. And for a lot of us it was the only way to come down was to get you a 24 pack of kokanee, you know and and I'm referencing kokanee because when we would go up to Canada, that would be for some reason that was the beer I liked up there.
okay.
So I would say, hey, can you get me some kokanee? And somebody would get that, and we would drink that because it tasted better than the piss beer in the States. And
I wasn't gonna touch on that, but
no, it really does. I got everybody on the bus to try it because I'm like, dude, it's like a better version of whatever the pilsners that you would get in the States, the big name ones. It would be like that, but it would taste clean. It wouldn't taste like, and so that was one of the things we would do when we would go up to Canada. But man, this has been an amazing conversation, and I'm gonna put a bookmark on your contact information and say that this won't be the last time. This will just be the first time that we do
Sure.
something like this, because I know you've got a world of
Oh my
stories
goodness.
that
Years.
we could keep going for another couple of hours. But
Oh yeah.
I've got a chihuahua that's scratching at my door right now. But man, this has been amazing. First of all, thank you for reaching out, sending me that picture. I'll make sure people see it, in this conversation and a few of the other shots that you sent me. And I'll send everybody over to your Instagram page. And if you're in the area of Ontario, correct? No, Quebec.
No, I've moved, so I'm now in Montreal, Quebec,
Montreal,
and
Quebec.
Montreal, Quebec. Yep.
And
Now for
if you need photography up there, I know you do all kinds of different photography work.
I can handle anything pretty much anybody needs. But for me, like when I was reaching out to you and like reaching out to the other artists I'm going to reach out to, the interview has been great. I know you want to cut it, and that's great. But for me, like even if we were just you and I had a video chat, not even recorded, but just to sit and talk about music, that would have been just fantastic for me. And hopefully I can get some pictures of some other artists and have some more great conversations and learn some things that I didn't know and share stories with other people. But if you ever want to do this again, yeah, absolutely. Let's
Dude,
go.
we will do this again. Maybe I'll get you and a couple other photographers sometime, and we'll all talk, have the talk about the live photography thing. That might be a cool thing. It's such a different angle than anything I've ever never had a photographer, concert photographer, or a security guard, which by the way, dude, I did concert security as well. I did Tool, I did Ozzy
Oh,
Osbourne, I worked the pit
yeah,
in an Ozzy show. I
yeah.
worked
I was fortunate.
I've
So
done.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yeah, I was fortunate. I got to work with Ozzy solo, and I get to work with Ozzy with Sabbath. Again,
Wow.
dream come true. Small town boy, and then you hear Crazy Train live and Bark at the Moon live, and you're like, growing up in a small town, I never could have imagined this. But anyways,
Yeah, man. And so like I said, we'll do a part two. This might be an interview that I end up doing two parts on the channel to break it up for everybody. And then we'll come back and do a part three, part four. Who knows? Maybe we'll do Rocky 8, you know. We'll do Rocky 8, The Vengeance or something, after that. But man,
all right, I'm in.
thank you so much, Richard, for sending me that picture and reaching out. Man, it's been an absolute pleasure. And let's stay in touch. And man,
Absolutely.
keep rocking, dude. Thanks, brother.